So I want to introduce you, Jill Bolte Taylor. I am honored that you want to meet me here.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And you know, I'm like 85% Swedish.
Yes, I heard about this a long time ago. Tell us.
Well, you know, I thought I was Hungarian.
Yeah, okay.
Because it turns out that so there's German. We knew that we were German, but it was the Germanic Swedish. So we migrated down. My ancestors migrated down to Germany, and then migrated down into Hungary. And so I thought I was Hungarian, and then we did the ancestry testing on one of my brothers. And it turned out we were like 85% Swedish. And that kind of makes sense. You know, we were blonde hair, blue-eyed, towhead.
Yeah, I can see that. You could be a Swede, definitely.
But now I'm really working that, you know, now that makes me, you know, a Viking. And then it turns out that my female line, so years ago, the remains of a Swedish warrior grave was identified. Do you remember that story?
In where?
In Sweden, in a cave. I thought it was in a cave, but a grave was found, and it was a body with two horses, and they were all dressed in regal wear so that they knew that this was a warrior, a royal warrior. And it turned out that that was a female. And that female, 10,000 years ago, was my ancestor.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought so.
I think so too. I have no idea of my ancestral background more than I have, how do you say, a background or history up in the north, the Samer, the Nordic shamans, you could say. Yeah.
Yes. We could be cousins.
Definitely. Probably we are. You know, the circle of people who know each other, it's not very big. The network.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Jill, you are here with us today because we are talking about you are your second book. You have written two books, right? The Stroke of Insight and Whole Brain Living. And this is the book that we will launch very soon in Livsenergy, the book club, with focus on body, mind, and soul. And I want to show it to you because it just arrived from the printers.
Oh, exciting! Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Ugh. See, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. What is the title?
I'm so happy that you actually like the cover. So it's Whole Brain Living.
Okay.
You know, everything sounds so good in English. And then you need and then you want to translate that, and it's lev med hela hjärnan. So it's living with the whole brain.
Okay. Well, it sounds very poetic. So, and I know that the contents are top-notch, interesting, and quality. So thank you for your efforts to really have the translation be what I intended those words to mean. I appreciate that.
And I want to thank you because it's not very common. I know that I've told you this, but it's not very common for us to work so close with an author and a Swedish expert as well. So Helen has been fantastic. She's been amazing.
She was
and the translator is fantastic too. So I'm super happy.
The content is such that depending on who would translate it, if they cannot truly relate to that experience of being ethereal, being as big as the universe and open and vast, and it just becomes a thinking concept, that's very different than experiencing what that feeling is. So thank you for being open to allowing there to be really a massaging of that specific material so that people could truly understand that thinking portion of the right hemisphere.
So the thing is with this book, it's very scientific in many ways, but I can feel there is a lot of spirit in this book.
Oh, Absolutely. And actually, I did my best to keep very little science in it. It is designed for a layperson to pick it up and read it. There's pictures, where diagrams for where I thought that was necessary. But I did my best to make the sciences absolutely as simply understandable and as possible. So I don't want
And a bit of
anybody.
humor as well.
It's got a whole lot of sense of humor in it. Yeah, it does. Good. I'm glad that translated, because it's for me, I want people to think of the brain as this beautiful, amazing, interesting, fun organ that they can actually better understand. And so this book is kind of a roadmap to better understanding, a user's manual, if you will, so that you can get your brain to do what you want it to do.
The funny thing is, I was writing, a chronicle for the member magazine yesterday, and this book arrived at the same time. So I was like, synchronicity. That's I like that. And when I wrote that, I realized that I haven't lived my life with my brain, consciously with my brain. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So once reading this book, understanding the 4 characters, that we actually have 4 characters and that we can choose, that's the main thing, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, my brain is with me. So I've kind of invited it to my life, which is, in my understanding, what you want us to do. You want us to invite the brain to our lives, to be consciously with us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there's 2 groups of emotional cells, and most people think we have just one. Mm-hmm. So no matter what I'm feeling, it's like this soup, and it's just like, yeah, I'm in my soup, right? I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm on an adrenaline junkie ride, I'm whatever it is, I'm doing that, but it's divided into these 2 different ways of perceiving. And the right and the left hemispheres, I mean, there's just 70 years of research about the differences, right down to the differences between the right and the left hemisphere of a bird brain, or of a rat brain, or of any kind of an animal brain. And so they are different. One biologically programmed to look bigger picture, because I need that bigger picture to protect myself. And then the left hemisphere, going detail, so I can actually figure out, is this a berry that I recognize, that I can tell, is it going to kill me or not? So we have these 2 very natural ways of perceiving, and we don't think about that, but they have different values, and they have different opinions, and they care about different things, and they want to engage in life in different ways. So you're no longer just running on automatic, living your life as you, the individual. Now it's like, oh, I have a conversation going on inside of my head. Who am I ignoring? Who am I listening to? Who do I routinely give the microphone to? Who am I waking up as? When I'm romantically involved, what's that character inside of me? And how does that character actually build a relationship or self-sabotage a relationship? And all of these things become really clear once you understand these 4 characters inside of your brain, which parts of your brain they are, the skill sets that you gain from each of these 4 parts, and then the characters that come out as these complex skill sets. So to me, it just makes life a whole lot more easy, because now you're aware. And then you're not just aware of the 4 inside of yourself, but you're looking at the 4 inside of every other person you encounter. So, suddenly there's, instead of 1 of us in the room, or 2 of us in the room, there's 8 of us in the room. And that's, that's how we are. And we ping pong off of one another. And the better we understand those dynamics of each of us and each of those characters, then we can start playing more nicely together because we actually understand someone's intention or who someone presents themselves or what part of me someone's asking for and et cetera. I mean, it's just a beautiful way of relating to your life in a way that makes more sense.
So like you said, it becomes easier, life becomes easier, but it also, to me, becomes more exciting because all of a sudden we can actually explore our own self in a new way.
Right. Yes, we absolutely can. And it becomes safer because this part of us that is our vulnerable pain, it's a real part of all of us. And, you know, the left hemisphere has me, the individual. I am Jill Bolte Taylor. I have an identity in my left hemisphere because I have a group of cells that define me as that person. And when I experienced the stroke and I lost those cells, I didn't exist anymore as Jill Bolte Taylor. Her interests, her academic knowledge, her likes and dislikes, her relationships, they were all gone. But I, in my right hemisphere, had this magnificent experience of the present moment. And in getting to know the present moment, how few of us spend a whole lot of time in the present moment. And I'm guessing that that's one of the things that you've also tuned yourself into of the temporal timing of where am I? Is my mind in the past? Is my mind in the future? Am I worried about the future? Am I rooted into the trauma or pain from my past? And how much time am I actually spending right here, right now? And right here, right now is where life happens. So how much of the current moment of life are we missing simply because we're in the past or we're in the future or we're in some intellectual, rational idea, thinking experience that is not right here, right now.
That's very true. So I want to just stop for 1 second and just go back to the beginning because you've been kind of fascinating with the brain for most of your life. Isn't that true?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
What sparked this fascination?
So I have a brother who is 18 months older than I am. And eventually he would be diagnosed with the brain disorder schizophrenia. So as a child, I was the baby. My brother with schizophrenia was the middle child. And then there was another brother older than him. And the older brother was older, so he was kind of off. He was more skilled. He was doing other things, right? But my world was in relationship with my sibling with schizophrenia. And I noticed at a very early age that we were processing information differently. And as siblings, we did everything together. You know, we go to school together, we go swimming together, we do this together, we do everything together. And I'm realizing we're different. And we could have the exact same experience and he would then talk about it. And it was like, well, I didn't get that. That wasn't how I interpreted it. For example, if we were out playing in the front yard and, we kick a ball and the ball goes into the street and somebody's running out into the street, mom is back there screaming like a crazy woman, right? And he thought she was angry and I thought she was worried. So that's a big miscommunication in how we interpret auditory emotional content of information. And then it wasn't just like that. He had this amazing brain. It was like he had the brain that was scheming and deceiving, and he was just really conniving. And I wasn't like that at all. I was just like a happy little girl. I didn't think about all that stuff. So we were very different. And that's how I really became aware that we're not all the same. We're different. And how are we different? We're different in how we're perceiving the world, processing that information, and then interacting with it. So by 4 or 5 years old, I was really observing differences in behavior.
Yeah. And this then led you to study anatomy.
Yes, I fell in love with the anatomy of the body as soon as I realized. I remember in the 5th grade dropping my arm down at my side, and the teacher said, "Drop your arm down and then look at it." And all the vessels would pop out, and I'd think, "Oh my gosh, I'm organized. I'm organized." And as soon as I realized I was organized, it was like, well, if I'm organized, I can learn it. And for some reason, I was just compelled to learn the human body, the physiology, the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry, the neuroanatomy, the whole thing. It was just this like compulsion for information. And then ultimately, in order to get a job, my biggest fascination was, what's the difference between my brain and the brain of my brother as we're processing information in such profoundly different ways? And so that led me into research into neuroanatomy. But by the time I graduated from graduate school, I could teach the entire course on gross anatomy, which is cadaver lab, neuroanatomy, brain anatomy, as well as histology, which is the tissues. So my true love was at the level of cells. I love cells because everything is based on cells. So you think of an organ, you think of a brain. I don't think of a brain. I think of neurons and the glial cells and how they interact and how they connect and how they're wired together and how they ultimately can be influenced by external, but what do they need for health and wellness?
So just a short break here. What do you do to make sure your cells are healthy?
Well, number one is I sleep. I really value the healing power of sleep. I'm just out in the world waving a flag for more sleep, more sleep. Sleep is the time when all the information streaming in through the sensory systems shuts down so that the cells can actually refuel themselves. It's not that they are sleeping, but these little cells, they're living creatures. They're eating and they're creating waste. And throughout the day, they're filling the space around them with all of this waste, which is why we get tired. Things don't function so well. We're not clear-minded. And then when we sleep, it's like the garbage cleaners come in and the janitors, it's janitorial time to clean out the waste, and it freshens the brain, freshens the environment so the neurons can go back to communicating with one another effectively the next day. And I don't know what's going on in your country, but in our country, we pride ourselves on as little sleep as possible. And it's just not healthy. It is not healthy for the brain. And sleep actually cleanses the entire body. So if you get good sleep, it's good for the cardiovascular system, for the immune system, for the neurological system, for everything functions better when you allow yourself sleep. So sleep is number one for me.
Can you sleep too much?
Well, I think that you have to, everybody's different. And I think you have to ask yourself, why am I sleeping? So if you're sleeping because it's gray skies outside and you're not getting the circadian communication of its wake cycle time, you need to be awake, you need to go to sleep. If you're sleeping because you're sad or you're acutely or chronically depressed, there are a lot of different reasons why people do sleep too much. Is it possible? Yes, it is. My philosophy is I go to bed at night when I'm tired. I go to sleep when my brain's ready to go to sleep, and I'm careful. I protect that. I can't drink coffee really after noon or 1 o'clock because of the residual caffeine. I like dark chocolate, so I'm very careful about that caffeine and that sugar as well. I pay very close attention to my sugar content because it keeps, the brain doing its thing. So I'm very cautious. I also don't do screen time 2 hours before I'm going to go to sleep. I like to read. I like to listen to books on tape. So I would do that instead of being on the computer playing games or something that's going to add more stimulation. And screen time can actually get in the way of that circadian rhythm because of the kind of electromagnetic radiation that it gives the brain. So you have to be careful and you have to be cautious. But then I wake up in the morning when I'm ready to wake up. And, I'm in my 60s. I don't set an appointment before 10 a.m. in the morning because if I want to sleep to 9, I want to be able to sleep until I wake up naturally. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the key. Your body and brain will tell you how much sleep it really wants. And if you do your best to create a healthy circadian rhythm, then your brain will tell you. But if you have to wake up on an alarm clock every morning, you're not finished cooking. I call it cooking. My brain wants to cook until it's done, right? And I don't want to eat that prematurely. I don't want to get up before it's ready.
Sounds like a smart thing. With kids and dogs and stuff, I have to wait for another 10 years perhaps before I can.
I understand that completely. Yeah.
No, but that's a good goal though, objective.
Yeah, it is. Sleep is important, and good nutrition, quality nutrition, water. 70% of us are dehydrated. Just making sure we're not dehydrated gets the whole system to function a whole lot better. And that's an easy one. That's an easy one.
It is. And it's actually quite easy to sleep better as well. So, and the thing is, what you're saying, it's common knowledge, and it's something that we hear every now and then from scientists and doctors and, people that really know, and still we can't do it.
Right. I know our society is skewed so much to the value of more.
Effectiveness.
And now because of electronics, we have this, a text comes in, an email comes in. I have to, the emergent need of I have to act on that so that we don't turn work off. Like we used to turn off work and actually have home time, family time, quiet time, no screen time. Now it's just like, I have to deal with this before I go to sleep. And it's like, it's just a whole different value structure from how we were 50 years ago.
Yeah. So about 50 years ago, this is when we got to understand more of the brain. Or 70 years ago, you said, with the two hemispheres, right? And coming back to the book, because now we're talking about two hemispheres, yes, but they're both divided into two, or that's where we get the 4 characters that we're talking about in this book.
Yes.
Yeah. So when did that new science come into play?
That's the interesting thing is we've known for a long time that we have a limbic system. So think about the development of the brain as this structure is the reptilian brain. And the difference between a reptilian brain and a mammal is the addition of new tissue on top. And that's the emotional tissue, the limbic tissue. And we've always had 2 blobs of limbic tissue, one in the right hemisphere, one in the left hemisphere. Each one has an amygdala, each one has a hippocampus, each one has an anterior cingulate gyrus. So it's bilateral. Everything in the brain with these 2 hemispheres is bilateral. So there's 2 of them. So we've had 2 emotional systems, well, 1 emotional system, but 2 halves of it forever. This is not new information. And then we grow in human, the new tissue on top, the neocortex, which is our higher executive function. And so that's usually, in the past, we've talked about the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, but nobody's been dividing it up and recognizing the fact that we have 2 halves of the limbic system. And so it was when I lost my left hemisphere, it really was, what did I lose? I lost that left hemisphere. I lost me, the individual. Jill Bolte Taylor died that day. The past was gone. The future was gone. The linearity across time was gone. Language was gone. The boundaries of where I begin and end was gone. And in the absence of those cells of the left brain, I was in the right hemisphere, right here, right now, having this experience, open and vast, no physical boundaries. So I felt that I was as big as the universe, blended with the universe as I currently am with this image. Yes. And, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what it was like. So I shifted into this other consciousness. And then I used these cells and this knowledge to rebuild these circuits in the left brain in order to get those circuits back on online. And I realized that my emotions from the past, they were gone. They were wiped clean. It was like I had to put a new chip in order to start over again with emotions. So I have no emotions from my childhood, but I do have thinking memories of my childhood, which I had to rebuild that circuitry as well. So I regained the thinking circuitry. I relearned a lot of that, but the emotion from the past, I had to start from scratch. So as I look at this brain and I'm trying to communicate to other people, what's going on inside of our brain, it was the moment I realized that people think we have just one emotional group of cells, and it's not. We have two. So once I realized that helped me realize people don't understand we have two emotional modules of cells. They process information. They do things differently. So, but we end up then with these 4 different modules of cells, 2 emotional and 2 thinking. So we've always known that we have these 4 groups of cells, but nobody has spoken about what are the differences. Even though we understand the differences between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, nobody applied that experientially. And it probably took, a brain scientist who understood that circuitry and thought in terms of cellular structure and circuitry to lose half of her brain, the left hemisphere, recognize and realize, well, what are the skill sets I still have? And where in the brain is that? And when those all get together, they end up in a skill set that looks like a personality, a character profile. And as I was rebuilding the skills of the left brain, when the emotions started up again, I realized this is the part of my brain that is all the emotions from my past. This is all my pain. This is all my trauma. And when you look at the research, we know that to be true. There's all this research about that, but nobody has ever gone into, but what is the experience, right? So
you have packaged this information for
exactly. Yeah, because something positive came out of this trauma. And I'm good with that because I'm the kind of person, I'm fascinated, I'm interested. I wanted to get my whole brain back online. But once I did, especially that left thinking tissue, that's the rational, organizing, controlling part of our brain. It's the boss. And when she came back online, she's like saying, I'm back and I want to be the boss again. And now the rest of my right brain is going, we don't think so. We want your skills, but we're not we didn't bring you back to life to take over and be a dictator. No, we're now a democracy because the right brain isn't about me, the individual, and it cares about the world and it cares about us as humanity and it cares about the big picture. And me, the individual, I just cared about, I'm going back to climbing a ladder, right? It's about me and I'm going to be boss again and I'm going to come around. It's like, no. So whole brain living really came. So I knew this, but I didn't know how to communicate it. And then when I was giving a presentation and I said, we have I love presenting in this day and age because people know so many people know the language of the brain. They know about the amygdala and the hippocampus. But the fact of the matter is we have 2 amygdala. And there was actually an audible gasp in the room. And I realized that's it. People don't realize we have 2 emotional systems and 2 thinking modules of cells, and each of them result in very specific skill sets, very different from one another, and they result in these very different personalities. So we all have the anatomy and we all have all 4 characters. Now, how well developed are those 4 characters is another question.
True. So going back to, was it 37? Were you 37?
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened when you were 37 years old?
So when I was 37, I was teaching and performing research at Harvard. My area of specialty was how does our brain create our perception of reality? And I was focused on schizophrenia. What is the cellular differences between the normal brain, what we would define as normal, categorize as normal, compared to schizophrenia, schizoaffective, bipolar disorder, OCD, panic, anxiety. So I was a cellular neuroanatomist. I looked at the cell structure of the brain and which cells were communicating with which cells, with which chemicals, and then in what quantities of those chemicals, and then what are the differences between these different categories of people. And so that was my research, and I loved it. It was fun. And then I woke up one day and I experienced a major hemorrhage in the left hemisphere of my brain. And
did you understand what was happening to you?
Not immediately. No. And I didn't. So I was a good 2 hours into this morning, but it was an arteriovenous malformation. Usually you have an artery and a vein and a small capillary network in between. And the artery's high pressure. The vein is low pressure. Neurons, low pressure. And then there's like a no pressure center of capillaries. And I didn't have the capillary network. I had an artery, high pressure, directly attached to a vein, low pressure, and it couldn't handle the pressure and it blew off. And so all that blood started gushing then into the left hemisphere of my brain. And the thing about blood and brain tissue is that the neurons, the cells, are protected by a layer of what we call glial cells, tiny little cells that are a barrier between the neuron, me, the big neuron, and then a layer of glial, and then the blood vessels, because blood is poison to neurons and it's toxic and it will kill them. So that's why we have this specialized layering in there. So one of the reasons. So I had this hemorrhage and all this blood now was gushing into my left hemisphere, and those circuits then were going offline. And over the course of 4 hours, I watched I could not walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of my life because all of the abilities of that left hemisphere were now drowning in a pool of blood.
But now you are back. It took you many years to rebuild the brain, but you could rebuild it with all the knowledge that you had before the hemorrhage. You got it back.
Well, I got it back because as you think about what did I know before I had the hemorrhage, the left brain's about me, the individual. It's about a past and a future. There's linearity. Part of linearity is language. So I lost all my academic training that had to do with language. However, I still had a right brain, and the right brain thinks experientially and pictorially. And I had been a gross anatomist, big anatomist. So I had been in cadaver lab for many years. And so I experientially could have sculpted for you an abdomen accurately, but I could not, left brain, have told you the names of the 3 parts of the stomach, because the right brain had the big picture, the left brain had the details. I lost the details, but I could still use my knowledge of the overall and my belief in the ability of the brain to recover in order to, if I set myself up for success with plenty of sleep, good nutrition, and just, being calm and quiet and focused, not distracted with a bunch of noise, then I could do what I needed to do circuit by circuit to rebuild skills that ultimately come from those cellular loops. And it took 8 years of very determined, very focused rehab from the internal.
But when you talk about this, because I have to promote your TED Talk from 2008 in this video because it's fantastic. And most of the world knows about this already, but I want our viewers to understand that they have to see this. And in that talk, we get to know more about your experience on detail and with very, creative, in a very creative way that we understand, that we can actually feel what you were going through.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. That TED Talk was the first TED Talk that ever went viral. So Ted and I got famous simultaneously.
Yeah, you
That's
put
my
Ted
claim
on
to
the map. That's a good thing. So viewing that and reading this book, to me, you have kind of experienced the four characters in a very, very unique way that not many people in the world will ever do.
Right.
Now
Yes.
or in the future.
You
So
know, yeah.
you kind of built built the book and built the four characters from your own experience. Can you say that?
Well, I can say that the brain is built the way that the brain is built, but because of this journey, it would take, it was the, you know, 3/4 of our brain is essentially unconscious. And if it's unconscious, we think about it as running on automatic and we can't clearly identify it. Unlike the rational thinking character one left brain that we all have, and that we know that part of ourselves. It's the part that talks to us. We talk to it. We have relationships in the external world. And so because that part of me got wiped out and the emotion from the past and future got wiped out, I was still completely conscious. I simply had part of the map was wiped out, part of my abilities, but I was still completely conscious and aware and thinking and able to experience. And so through the eyes of a scientist, it was a very exciting experience because I got to experience what is the right brain doing when it is not being inhibited by that left brain. And over 70% of the fibers going between the two hemispheres are inhibitory. So what, I got to get rid of half, have this experience, become aware and use those skills, see what it's good at, see what it felt like. And then it was like I was blessed enough to get good brain surgery, get good treatment provided by really my mother was a true angel in my life. And she believed in the ability of my brain to recover itself more than the external world. She thought that if we set it up for success, it would succeed. And she was fantastic at that. So here we are, all these years later, I ended up being really 100%. And with a knowledge now of what did I have to rebuild? What was there? What is in that group of cells? And what's in this group of cells up here? And how then do we create a democracy inside of our brain where all parts are respecting all parts? And usually most of us are extremely left brain dominant. We're character one. We're out in the world. We're running the to-do list. We're getting it done. We're valuing language. But then, we meditate to get where are we going? Well, we're actually going for that character 4 and the right thinking part of the brain. We pray to a God. How do we access that experiential in our prayer? Well, we're opening like a portal in that right hemisphere thinking tissue to get to a consciousness that is calming and omnipotent and all loving. So we have these experiences inside of ourselves as a biological creature because we're biologically programmed for that as these 4 characters. And when we know the 4 characters, we can exercise them, train them so that we know them and we can call on them and they can actually communicate with one another in effective ways so that we're really living a conscious life. And it's a very different life than simply running on automatic.
Yeah. And I think most people do run on automatic, at least me.
Yeah, no, we are because we're trying to figure out how do I get my best? How do I hit my pause button? So many people are interested in yoga and interested in meditation and interested in prayer and interested in mantra and interested in, the stories of all the religions. And what does religion is a story in the left brain that opens ultimately a relationship with the greater overall, call that God, call that, 1,000 names for God, but it's the experience of feeling this incredible deep peacefulness and connected to all that is. And the ultimate goal of humanity, if you look at this brain in the back, is about connection. And the left brain brings us, me, the individual, you, the individual. We're separate from one another at the level of that left brain perception, but we're not disconnected. I'm an energy being. I'm over here. I've got cells. Cells are energy and structure, and I'm in relationship. I'm like a big energy ball as big as the universe, and so are you. So even if you're on the opposite side of the planet, our energies are all the same energy. So we're not separate. And so, when you consider what is quantum physics is the science essentially of the connectivity of that right hemisphere, which does not adhere to the scientific method of linear thinking of the left brain, but we're both.
But so about that, what do you think, why did you write this book? What is your message to the world? What is it that we should bring with us with this book? What can
we have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be in the world. We have that power. You can come in and you can say something that every time we, let's say we're siblings, because nobody fights better. Nobody squabbles better than siblings, right? Sis. And so you come in and you say something to me that is like a bear poke, you're going to make me unhappy. And I have the power to get angry with you. And we just do that automatic dance of let's be ugly with one another and fight together. And that's our character 2, our left brain emotional tissue. Or I can step into the consciousness of my right brain, my character 4, and I can just look at you and I can say to myself, my sister today is feeling agitated and irritable. And she wants me to get agitated and irritable with her. But instead of that, I'm just going to wrap my arms around her and give her a big love hug. And just like, maybe she'll calm down and settle down. You know what I mean? So I have the power to consciously choose. Am I going to get in my character 2 squabble with you? Or am I going to go into my character 4 right thinking part of my brain and just recognize, honey, I love you. Whatever's upsetting you, I love you. Or I might come into my playful little character 3, which is the emotion of the present moment. It's experiential. It's exciting. It's interesting. It's like, oh, come on, honey, let's go do this instead, or I'm going to go do this. You want to come? And then you make a conscious decision. Well, do I want to stay in my character 2 and just like growl at her? Or do I want to go play and chase that snake she just saw because, oh my gosh, it's got stripes. Let's go see, go have some fun with my sister, right? Or you can step into your character 1 and you say, no, I got to go to work. I got to run the to-do list. I got to make a call. I got to do this. I got to do that. But at least we know we can choose consciously which one we're going to engage in. And then we're looking at our relationships differently. And it's like, I have the power to choose who and how I want to be.
So I have a dog outside that door. Trying to do this
right here, rolling over and moaning. I get it. See,
I'm actually
go get her.
So I'm in the office actually, but she's with us here in the office. That's why we have this situation.
I love it. I love that.
So, Jill,
and let me use that as a very brief whole brain living teaching moment.
Yeah.
So here you're on a podcast with somebody across the planet, and you're distracted because your dog is trying to get in, right? So your character 2 might be moving into some anxiety about, oh my gosh, this is not comfortable. How's it going to look? I'm so embarrassed, and then your character 1 is saying, well, this is reality. And so we're going to deal with that. But maybe people are going to think I'm not professional or whatever. Or you can just say, you know, my dog is scratching at the door and I got to go let it in because I love it and I want it to be happy, right? And so this is going to be your right brain response. So you have all these different characters inside of your brain making decisions on how are you going to handle it. And you didn't come back and apologize as a character two. Oh my gosh, that was so unprofessional. You didn't make those judgments. You opted to say, I got a little dog, I got to go deal with this. It was very much, I got to step into my character one. Mama has to go open the door for the baby. It's all okay. And then I'll sit back down. But those are choices. Yeah. Those are choices. And all whole brain living is doing is it is bringing into your conscious awareness which character has the microphone and is that the one you want to have the microphone in any moment.
This is so interesting. And we're going to talk more about that because before I actually acted, there was something going on up there. You know, it was a discussion that I was not really in control of. And this is the brain huddle. How do I get control of that? But before we go into the brain huddle, I want to ask you for a short and quick guide of each character one by one. You know, the structured version.
Yeah. So whole brain, left thinking tissue. So we have in the left hemisphere, left thinking and left emotional tissue. And we are feeling creatures who think. So which means other mammals have the emotion and then the human adds on top of that the neocortex, the thinking tissue. So as information comes in through our sensory systems and gets processed, it goes first into the emotion and then it gets passed up into the more refining thinking tissue. So as you look at that, then character one is left thinking, character two is left emotion. Character one, left thinking, this is the rational portion of our brain. I am Jill Bolte Taylor. I do have a past. I do have a future. I do have a relationship with the external world. And the external world, I want to control it and create order in it so I can interact with it effectively. So I'm going to define the societal norm. The external world relationship will define with that character one what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is legal, what is not legal, what are the consequences of those legals, how do we define punishment, etc. So this is that thinking part of our brain. It has language and it likes to be the boss. Do you recognize that part of yourself, Alexandra?
Yes, I do.
It goes to work. It runs a to-do list. It's busy. It's good at keeping track of a million details, and it acts. And it is our stress circuitry.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's our stress circuitry. And the stress circuitry isn't just in the thinking, but it comes down into the emotion of character two. Mm-hmm. So character two then is also that ego, me, the individual, and it is my past emotions and my fears and emotions projected into the future. So character two is all my trauma and all my pain from the past and all my memories of my pain from the past. So, and it is complete, it is dependent on what is external. So it needs external approval in order to feel of value. So it is these two of these combine as our perfectionism. And so it's the critical, anything critical, a critical judgment of me that I'm holding on to from my past. Somebody told me when I was 5, I couldn't sing, so I'm not a singer. Or somebody said I couldn't do this, or I was bad, or I wasn't worthy of love, or any physical traumas. All of that's rooted in that character 2 pain of the past. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people say, you know, I'd really like to wipe out my character 2. And I say, no, you don't want to wipe out your character 2 because information streams in from the external moment in the present moment. And then that information goes into that emotional alarm, alert of my character 2. Am I safe? but it's not just, am I safe in the present moment? It's, am I safe based on my life experiences? Mm-hmm. So let's say when I was 5 years old, I was bit by a dog, and the dog was a certain kind of a dog. And so now, let's say 55 years later, I see that kind of a dog, the information about, oh, I'm in the present. It's 55 years later. I get the information. My character 2 goes back in time and says, oh my God, that's a bad dog because I was bit when I was 5 years old. Push it away, say no. So this is our filter. This is our healthy boundary. It's also our unhealthy boundary, but at least it's a boundary, right? Yeah. Character 2 is looking for a reason to push away and say no. Character 3 is the emotion, alarm, alarm, alert, alert, of the present moment. So let's say in the present moment, I'm outside and a bus is coming straight for me. And my alarm of my character 3 is saying, right now there's a danger and I need to get out of the way of the bus. Right? So it's my character 3 experiential. What does it feel like in the present moment? So we have all the deep emotions of our past in the left hemisphere, but in the right hemisphere, it's right here, right now. Right here, right now, it's perfect moment. Right here, right now, it's perfect moment. And right here, right now, we're going to go do something. So come on, let's go jump in the lake. And then we'll feel the pressure of the water, and we'll feel the temperature of the air. Or we can go out and we can play in the snow, and but it's the experience, and it's an adrenaline junkie because it wants excitement. But it's new, it likes novel, and it's excited, and it's interested, and it's creative, and it's open, and it's possibilities. And it's just all, yeah. It's like, let's go, big energy. And that's character 3. And then character 4 is the connection to all that is. It doesn't have the boundaries of my left brain where I begin and end. It doesn't have the right and wrong, good and bad. It's not focused on the detail. It's open to the big open expansiveness. And it's the peacefulness, and it's the calmness, and it's the awe of, oh my gosh, I'm alive. I exist at all. I'm alive. How on earth? And I'm not just a single-celled, microbe that has receptors that receive some things and allow things to flow through to a cell can stimulate and be stimulated by. I'm a microbe times 50 trillion. And I have ears that can process, filter sound, and I have a voice that allows me to communicate, and I have eyes that allow me to see, and oh my God, I'm alive, and I have bladder capacity. Oh my gosh, I have bladder capacity. I mean, it's this big awe of, oh my God. And somewhere, many of us, we can't find that part of ourselves because we're so connected to, I'm that character 1 or character 2 in the external world, and this is who I am, and I'm just running on automatic. But boy, I sure would like to understand what the mystics are talking about. What is that? And where did Buddha go when he went and he found this peace? Where is that? Well, it's right there, wired in the circuitry of our own right hemisphere thinking tissue. And we have the ability to get to know that, to train each of these 4 characters so they're all strong, so that they can then interact with one another effectively by choice.
So are you actually saying that if we want to develop our spiritual sense, mm-hmm. we could work more with our character 4?
Absolutely. The biggest difference is we look at the universe, and well, I think this was Einstein. You either see everything as magical or you see nothing as magical. It's a choice. Well, the left brain sees nothing as magical. It sees everything as A plus B equals C, and everything is linear and mechanical things fit together. But the left brain cannot create life. It cannot create life, even that single-celled. And if you don't have that awe, and you don't have that, oh my gosh, this is a miracle. If you can't tap into that part of yourselves, what you're not doing is you're not allowing yourself to tap into this part of ourselves that is a part of who we are. And then you have to say, okay, well, why not? Well, maybe the social norm where I live is not spiritual. And spiritual is a word that we use to define something. And my left brain might say, well, I don't like spiritual. Well, okay, if you don't like spiritual, how do you like quantum mechanics and physics? Because it's describing the exact same experience, but it's using the left brain language instead of a right brain language. And so that's why in this book, I'm very careful, because I am scientifically based. I am a neuroanatomist. I want to talk about the cells because they're like this amazing, most amazing thing. And oh my gosh, I'm not just one of them. I'm 50 trillion of them. And if that doesn't blow your mind, it's like you're not paying attention.
No.
You know, and I'm encouraging people in this book to recognize that this is what we are from a different perspective that is more left brain based, but it's still the right brain realm of all that is, and this energy connection to all that is. And so as I look at the brain and I look at these 4 modules of cells, I look at each of them as a level of consciousness, a form of consciousness. And when I lost my left hemisphere, I lost the consciousness of character 1, do, go, control. I lost the consciousness of character 2, which was all of my pain and trauma from the past feeling. But what I gained was an untethered experience of the present moment. And the present moment, when you bring your mind to it and you attend to it, it's a completely different experience than what's going on in our left hemispheres. And we all have it.
But isn't it so? Is it so? I think you said this before, actually, that we in our world live more with the left brain, and that we are kind of afraid, or it's not maybe accepted to live in the right brain.
Yes. I think that's cultural. That's a cultural difference. There are countries in the world that are more right hemisphere dominant than left. The whole Eastern medicine is a celebration of life and plant life, and how are we a biological in relationship with an entire world of biology. We are one collective whole, as opposed to Western medicine, and certainly the United States is very skewed to the values of the left brain. So much so that the right brain has its own language, and there, we have this incredible polarity, not just in our politics, but in our relationship and how we honor or dishonor different parts of ourselves. So if someone uses certain words that are flowery or metaphorical or synergistic or co-creation or my authentic self, so some left brains are over there cringing, going, oh my God, I just can't take that, right? So, but it's a matter of language. And if we can get past this language barrier and we just recognize this is a brain, we're biologically programmed for both. And the reason that the language in the right hemisphere becomes soft and flowery is because it takes out me, Jill Bolte Taylor, my ego, left brain, out of the equation. It's not about me. And so if I'm just going to cringe, my ego is going to cringe every time I hear that flowery language, then I'm going to push it away and say, that's bad, that's wrong, I don't want anything to do with it, that doesn't feel safe. And there's a lot of that around the world. But there are some cultures that are much more right brain dominant. And if you've tried to do business with these people, then you know that there's a special way of doing business in order to get my left brain needs met on a timely schedule so that I can actually take that trip and have everything done in time, so we're not all the same.
Have culture crashes.
Oh, we have big culture crashes, absolutely. And when you look at war, what is war? War is when one leader is saying, this is what I believe, this is what I want, and this is what I need, and and I'm the boss, and I'm going to control it. And then you have another leader of another country saying, well, that's a violation of what we need, what we want. And so you end up with two character twos at war with one another. just like we're fighting with our spouses, except they have, the war machines behind them.
So do we agree that if the world could find, if people in the world could find oneself more in the right hemisphere, character 3 and 4, we would have a different world?
Well, I certainly believe, so my ultimate goal is, right now your population and my population, as I understand it, we're more skewed to the left brain dominant. Mm-hmm. I'm not advocating for right brain dominant. I'm advocating for whole brain.
Of course you are. Leva, hela, hjärnan. Right.
Because once we do that, if we're skewed to the left, we're going to bring in the right, and then we're going to meet in the middle. And we have these two absolutely magnificent halves that are opposite in how they perform their jobs. However, I will say this. The value structure of the right hemisphere is for the collective whole, because it's not about me, the individual. I don't even exist in my right hemisphere, right? I died that day, and I had to rebuild that character of the left brain. So that's where the ego cells are that say, this is where I begin and where I end. So this air out here is different from me. This computer is different from me, but I have to have a left brain to know that. So I want my life, and the difference between my life before and after was that I was living in a left brain dominant society, climbing the Harvard ladder and climbing that linearity up the ladder. And it was about me, and it was about my success. And it was about, I wanted more. I wanted a higher, bigger paycheck. I wanted a bigger house. I wanted more. I wanted more. And it was about me in relationship, in comparison to those around me, because I'm separate from them. So of course it's about me. But my right brain is saying, but it's not about me, the individual. It's about us, humanity. And so now I make all of my decisions not based on the me and how I'm doing, but it's about what is good. How do I bring the best of what I am? How do I bring this amazing left brain skill set and this knowing of this incredible right brain? And how do I take all that and I put it together and I say, how do I use me and what I believe to be true and what I know based on all those details? And how do I bring something into the world that is best for all of humanity? But I do it in a way that appeals to people's left brains, because the right brain, they're already loving everybody, right? They're not going to save the world, or they would have done it by now. The people who are going to save the world are the left brainers. And the left brain, if we're skewed to the left and we bring the left brain back more into the whole, they have the power, because they're the character ones in the world making everything happen in the external. And if we're going to heal this wound of humanity so that we don't destroy the planet, it's going to take those strong left brain, in order to come back into being whole brain, in order for us to find that peace.
And isn't it so, if I remember correctly, that one reason you wrote this book was because you got a lot of questions of how do I connect more to my right brain?
Yes. Well, after I gave the TED talk that you mentioned, it was the first TED talk to ever go viral. And it was such a powerful experience for the TEDsters. And I knew in an instant my life had changed. But what happened was I became world famous. TED became world famous. But what I wanted us to revere one another. I wanted the message of we are this powerful, amazing, beautiful thing, so that I would look at my family different. I would look at my colleagues at work different. I would look at people in my society with a new level of respect and reverence. Well, people gave me that respect and reverence, but they didn't give it to one another. And I thought, well, that was a failure, and everybody's thinking, oh my God, millions, almost 30 million people have seen this, and you call it a failure. And it's like, but it didn't achieve. I didn't do it for my left brain ego. It was gone. I did it for us as humanity. And so I literally had over 300,000 people in the first few years send me emails and say, how do I find that peace? How do I find the piece of that right thinking tissue? And it was like, I didn't have an answer because I got whacked out of the left brain into this. I had this experience, and then I rebuilt consciously, circuit by circuit, rebuilt the left brain. So I knew how to go from the right brain into the left brain. But how do I teach someone how to get from the left brain into the right brain? And it was like, I didn't know. I knew what it felt like, but I didn't know how to communicate it. And then I was giving that presentation, and I realized, oh my gosh, people think we have one emotional system. And that was the key. No, we have two emotional systems. We have two thinking modules of brain cells. And if we know each of these different groups of cells, then we have the power to know these parts of ourselves. We can begin to recognize, when am I in each of these four characters, and how then can I train myself to spend more time exhibiting the lifestyle of those four characters. And then ultimately, once I know my own four characters very well, I know who they are, I know what they feel like inside of my body, I know how they spend their time, I know what it feels like, I know who I am as I radiate those characters. Then I have the power to step into each of those characters at any moment in time. And that is pure personal freedom.
So is this the moment when we go into the brain huddle?
So the brain huddle is, it's in English, it's an acronym, brain, BRAIN. And the huddle, all sports, they have these huddles. And this is when all team members come together and they have their huddle and they communicate, and then they make a play. Right? What are we doing when we come out of huddle?
In Swedish, sorry to interrupt you. In Swedish, the brain huddle is called taktiksnack för hjärnan. Och det är precis det som Jill försöker förklara nu. Taktiksnack. In the sports, like you said, taktiksnack, it's tactics, talk. Huddle.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So in English, then, I work with BRAIN. B stands for breath. So let's say your little dog is clawing at the door. All right. And you're having this conversation going on in your brain. What am I going to do? Am I going to get it? Am I not going to get it? She's going to scratch up the door. Is somebody going to come and get her? You've got this conversation, right, going on. And it's a moment. So it's like, okay, in that moment, you could have called a brain huddle, and you may have. I don't know. I wasn't in there with microphones, right? So, but it's like a perfect anxiety moment. It's good time to call a huddle. So the huddle is B, breath. Breath. Why breath? Breath is the tool we humans use through meditation, through prayer, through mantra, in order to bring ourselves to the present moment. Bring your mind to the present moment. Well, my anxiety might not be in the present moment. My anxiety is thinking about the future. What are they going to think? Da, 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 da. Did I do that? Did I do this in the past? Character one is going, this is so unprofessional. It's making all this judgment. And it's like, okay, huddle, bring everybody into the present, just be right here. R stands for recognize. Recognize which of the four characters called this huddle. And I encourage people to do a huddle literally 20 times a day in the beginning, so that you get used to calling the huddle. So character one might be sitting in the office and set a little alarm on their little watch. And at a certain time, the alarm goes off and it's like, huddle, because it's on the to-do list. So character one is going to call a huddle. And what it does is it gets character one used to calling a huddle. Character two says, yeah, I'm here. I'm good, because I'm not having anxiety or fear or pain or whatever from my past. Character three is going, hey, I'm here. I'm great to be here. And character four is going, I love us so much. It is so amazing that we can actually tell time and have a huddle. Right? So character one can call the huddle. Character two can call the huddle when we need it. And that's really why we train the huddle, because when we're in our pain of our two, that's when we need to call the huddle, so that we don't, throw our fist into someone's face, or something comes out of our mouth that we don't want, or we make a really bad decision in that pain while we're in our pain. Character three can call a huddle because it's like, let's say character three is out playing in the snow and it's rolling around around in the snow, and it's like in a petri dish, and it's laughing and it's having a great time, and it's saying, huddle, everybody, huddle. And so character one's coming on going, yeah, I see you're having some fun. I'm here. And character two's going, yeah, I'm here. And character four is going, oh my gosh, I love us all. We are so magnificently alive, and we can play in the snow. So we're whole, and then character four can just be out in the woods, like being blissful euphoria, and say, let's huddle because I love you all and I just want to give you all love. So any of the four characters can call the huddle. So B, breath, bring your mind to the present moment, right here, right now. R, recognize which of the four characters called the huddle. A is appreciate that no matter which one called the huddle, we're all four here. And we're all four in the present, right here online together. I stands for inquire. Which of us do we want to be now? Who do we want to give the microphone to? So if I'm out being a playful, happy, and I'm rolling around in the snow and we're calling a huddle, and it's like my character one might come in and say, according to the clock, it's time to go in, right? And the little three has to say, okay, I'm good, I'm happy now. So, but inquire which one is going to, what we're going to do next. And then N stands for navigate the next moment. Well, maybe it turns out that, no, I don't have to go in, and the character one says, you can have 10 more minutes, right? And then I go back to being my character three, and I'm playing and I'm happy. And then I go in because the agreement is we respect one another. Each of these characters respects one another. And I want my character one, which is on the clock and timely and creating all the details, keeping me organized. I want her happy. I want that part of me happy, but I also want my play, because it's in my play where I am ingenious. I am open to possibility. I am intuitive, innovative, adventurous. And let's say I was working, and then I took a break and I went out and I played in the snow. And then I come back, and now my character one realized we're completely re-energized. We're completely re-energized with new possibility and new energy and new ideas, because we let that character three come in and refuel. So think about the left brain as the stress circuitry that drains the battery, and the right hemisphere is the refueling of the battery. So we really need this perfect balance between the two.
That's a fantastic go through. So when we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the situation with the dog and the clawing on the door. I did not breathe. So I got step one.
Exactly. And that's what we do. We move into the fear. It's like, oh my God, character two's online. It's going, and I can't breathe. I hear the dog. Do they hear the dog? What am I going to do? Yeah, that's a perfect example.
So that's the first thing. So the first thing was character two. Is that right?
Yes.
The little,
exactly.
When I told you I have to take a break now, that was my character one.
Yes.
Yes. So I went out, and I was trying to decide, should I yell at my husband for not helping me?
Exactly, because that's what character two wants to do. Right? What's wrong with you? You know I'm up here doing something busy. You're not helping me out. You're not paying attention. What's wrong with you?
Would that be character two?
Character two.
Yeah. So I went out there. I was calm, and so that was my character one, talking to my husband.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I came in, and I kept myself quite calm. So I never invited character 3 and 4.
Oh, well, see, yeah. I mean, because when those things happen to me, I laugh. I find I just laugh. To me, they're funny. And they're funny because it's like, of course, this is what's going to happen right now. But it's a great example. It's a great teaching example. So I always love it when something actually happens like that, and I get to make an example. And you can train yourself so here's a great example of that. Some fella, he writes me an email and he says, blah, blah, blah. I want to do this with you, blah, blah, blah. And he signs his name. And so I write him back and I said, oh, Robert, this is great. I'm very excited about the possibilities. And I sign it Jill. And then he writes back and he says, Mike, not John yet, or Robert yet. And I literally laughed out loud. Now, I could have thought, oh my God, here comes character 2. Oh my God, I made a mistake. I look like an idiot. And character 1's going, wow, the perfectionist just like totally messed up. And he's going to, and I make all these judgments, and I can make judgments of me, and I can say nasty things about me. What were you doing, Jill? Was I sleeping? What's the deal? But my automatic response, I thought it was hilarious. So I write him back immediately, and I write, dear Mike, not John yet, or whatever it was. And signed it Jill, and it just went on by.
Yeah.
And we don't have to make a big deal out of not being perfect. But that left brain says we have to control, make everything absolutely perfect. We have to control, or people will think these things. Well, people are going to think what they're going to think, but you don't really know what they're going to think, because you don't know their automatic reactivity. And so I have trained my automatic reactivity to humor and to think that that's silly, because I don't want to shame you. I don't want to embarrass you, because then you're going to get smaller and smaller. And I want you big as you can be, because I want us to be as best as we can be together. So why would I put you in a box and make you smaller and smaller? I want you open and happy and joyful and silly.
Yeah.
I have named my 4 characters. I think everyone should, because these are very specific personality profiles. These are characters, real characters. And so I have given them very special names for me. I have not given your name for you. I want you to pick your own names. So I call them character 1, character 2, character 3, and character 4 throughout the book, but I share with you what my name is. And Helen is my character 1. She's organized, she's structured, she's disciplined, she gets, she's punctual, she got me here on time, she put my glasses on, she put my earrings in, she put lipstick on, she got out and brushed my hair, she cared, right? Helen cared, and Helen is short for Hell on Wheels, she gets it done. So Helen showed up and she sets me up, but really I tend to like right now, I'm so, my arms are everywhere, voice is high and low, and I'm rocking back and forth, and I got this gorgeous brain behind me, and it's exciting, life's exciting. That's my character 3. And I call my character 3 Pigpen, because of the Charles Schulz Peanuts comic strip. Pigpen was always walking around in a dust storm. He was in the present, right here, right now. He was peaceful. He was happy. He was joyful, and he always went around along with whatever was going on. So I call my character 3 Pigpen, and I'm afraid you're getting a whole lot of Pigpen this morning.
Yes. I love character 3. So my next objective is to actually name my 4 characters.
Once you get to know your own 4 characters, once you get to know the 4 characters, then you start looking at, okay, who in my circle of friends, if I need the love of a character 4 to just hold me and just kind of love on me, no matter where they are in the world, who do I go to? Who are my character 4s? And I would go to a different person if I needed to have character 1 things taken care of, even though she's got a strong character 1. I would go, who does my Helen, my character 1 that I am, who does that go and do the to do with? And when I'm playful, who do I call? Who does Pigpen call to go play? Because my character 1 friends, if they're running their to-do list and they're not in the mood for my character 3, I'm going to go find a character 3 to play with, right? Because character 3s want to play with character 3s. And character 2s, if I'm miserable, if I'm unhappy and I want miserable company, I'm going to go call character 2. Right. And it's like, I'm mad, I'm angry, and I need you on my side. So let's go be blaming other people. So then you start really looking at what is my neural network of not just my whole brain, but my whole brain in relationship with other people. Who are my strong character 1s, character 2s, character 3, character 4s. And my friends know that if they call me and my character 1, Helen, answers the phone, hello, they can recognize, oh, hello, Helen, hello. And it's like, and then what does Helen say? My Helen, I say, what can I do for you? It's like, okay, let's get to it. right? I'm busy over here. What do you need? And they might say, they tell me what they need. And it's like, okay, I'll put that on the to-do list. Or they'll say, maybe you could call us back later this evening. And what they're really saying is, maybe Pigpen could call us back. Maybe she might want to play later. I mean, once you get the language and you recognize it in yourself, and you start recognizing it in your immediate circle of friends, and then you start looking at the bigger network of who you are, all of a sudden life makes a whole lot more sense. And interactions start becoming much more predictable. And if you don't like what that predictable relationship is, come in as a different character and the whole dance changes.
Yeah. Like you said before, who did I wake up with? So did I wake up as a character 4 or character 1, for example, or character 2, a little bit miserable perhaps?
Exactly.
So the switch, if I wake up as character 2 and I realize that, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be here today. I was actually yesterday when I went to bed, I was hoping to wake up as character 4.
Yes.
How can I do that switch? Is there a way?
So I go to the moment I wake up, because there's a beautiful group of cells in our brainstem. They did their job. Their job was to wake us up. That's the only reason why we're awake. Those cells woke us up. They did their job. And I wake up and I bring my mind, I've trained myself to bring my mind to that moment of awareness. I'm awake. And I immediately say, thank you. Thank you.
Gratitude.
I say, thank you, because those cells did their job today. Because we never know if we're going to wake up alive the next day, right? We don't know. And we don't know moment to moment to moment if we're going to be alive. And when I go to sleep at night and I shut down my consciousness and it goes through its process of cleansing itself, when those cells wake me up in that instant, when I'm awake, I'm awake. Thank you. Thank you. At least I have another moment of being alive. Another moment. And I pause. And I don't just say thank you. I do say thank you. Character 1 comes on, uses the language, thank you. But I feel this intense gratitude of, I am this massive collection of cells that make up my life. And I'm not just an amoeba, but I'm a big amoeba, right? I'm still just this big life form with all these filters. And I wiggle my toes, because I'm a stroke survivor. I know what it feels like to not have toes. I wiggle my toes and my toes wiggle and I think, oh my gosh, I got toes. I got mobility. And then I wiggle my fingers and they wiggle and it's like, oh my gosh, I got dexterity. And then I open my eyes and it's like, oh my gosh, I got vision. And oh my gosh, and I sleep with this little dog and she's pushed up against me and it's like, oh my gosh, I got love. I got love. I got warmth and I got love. And that's how, and it doesn't matter if I wake up as a character 2 because I've awakened too soon or something, and I might have a physical headache or a physical pain, or I've had a dream that has scared me, whatever. Even if I wake up as a 2, it doesn't matter who wakes up. Even if Helen wakes up first and I want to get up and go because I'm excited about what's bringing, what the day is, what time is it? Oh my God, I might be late. No. I pause. I give myself that 60 seconds. It takes less than 60 seconds, 90 seconds for me to do this. And it's like, oh my God, I'm alive. And when I begin with that, the whole rest of the day builds on top of that.
Thank you. Because what you've been doing right now, saying those words, is actually bringing what a lot of people in our book club and the members know from spiritual practice of gratitude, for example, into the scientific perspective. So because it does change the cells do their work if we just tell them to do it, right?
Exactly. Yes. Whole brain living is really just doing it consciously. Learning the anatomy underlying the life you're already living. And by understanding that better, then it's like, oh, so when you look at in English, here's the book in English. Can I even see it?
It has no boundaries.
There you go. But
There you
it's
go.
it says whole brain living, the
Yeah.
anatomy of choice.
Yeah.
And the 4 characters that drive our life. So this is about the anatomy of the choices we're making constantly. And when we understand the 4 characters and the anatomy of them and their interplay in relationship with one another, then it's like, oh my gosh, I really can consciously choose who and how I want to be in this moment. And, you know, so many times it's like, so let's say you're waiting for your spouse to come home and they don't come home and they don't call and they don't come home and dinner's on the table and dinner's getting cold and they're not calling and you can't get them. And now a flood of ideas are going through your brain, right? You start to worry, you start to you really, you fret. It's a dangerous world out there. Are they okay? And then it's like, well, the moment they walk in the door, what do? Do you decide to love on them because, oh my gosh, you're okay? Or do you want to like kill them first and then love on them later? And that's a conscious decision. And then they're outside going, okay, 45 minutes late. My phone died on the way home. These circumstances got in the way. And then they're preparing themselves for walking in the door. What are they going to get? Are they going to walk in to love and gratitude and appreciation that you're safe, or are you going to have a big fight for the rest of the night? And it's like, these are decisions we're constantly making. This way we can make them a little bit more consciously because we actually know, okay, when they come in, I'm going to come in as a 4 and I'm just going to have gratitude that they're here. Honey, I'm sure you've got a good reason for why that dog is scratching on the door while I'm doing a podcast and you're not paying attention whatsoever. So now when you get off of this podcast, what are you going to do? Are you going to go down there and chew on him, or are you going to just give him a kiss and say, it all worked out just fine?
I'll do the latter.
But you could do either,
Yeah.
and if you were just on automatic reactivity, we are constantly pushing people away and destroying our relationships. And as human beings, we want to bring them closer and forgive one another for not being perfect. None of us came into this world with a manual on how to get it all right, but at least this whole brain living gives us a little more of a chance at trying to be more compassionate with one another.
Yeah. And you could actually also ask for a certain character in response to a certain, I'm feeling this way. Can you please pull out your character for it right now?
Exactly. You absolutely can. I have a couple. She is a strong character 1. She's a school teacher. She's getting it done. She organizes the classroom. She organizes the home. She organizes everything. And he is a very strong character 3. And right now he's working at home, but he's also got a strong 1. But they love to play tennis. And so, so let's say she's on her way home and she says to her husband, honey, I know I told you we could play tennis tonight, but this is what I need from you. I need you to be a character 1 for half an hour. If you give me 30 minutes of your character 1 and you help me get this job done, then I can play with you as character 3s the rest of the evening. And he's thinking, oh, well, that's a deal. Sure, honey, come on home. I'll work with you for half an hour and then we'll go be character 3s for the evening. And that's a very different scenario than she comes home and he says, okay, let's go. I'm ready to play. And she's going, well, I can't play right now. I need to work, but if you help me, and he's going, well, I don't want to help you. You told me we could go play. And so now they're in this 2 for 2 tit for tat that could have been completely avoided if they were using the language of the characters.
Yeah. Oh, you have created something fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for packaging it so beautifully and for sending it out into your population. I am so excited, and I'm excited to come back. And if this book group does, chats with the audience, I'm more than happy to participate in that.
Fantastic. We will definitely do that. Today, right. February 9th, 2022 is the day when Sweden took out all the restrictions from the pandemic.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my.
A big day. Probably a very big day, historic.
That's a big day. And I know that, I mean, aren't we just playing this by ear? And aren't all four characters playing this experience by ear? The little character 2 is going, I'm not safe. I don't know if I get this, how sick I'm going to get. It could kill me. The character 1 is saying we have to have structure in our society. We have to allow people to live their lives. Character 3s haven't been wearing masks anyway. They're just out there doing what they want to do. And character 4 is saying, life is this precious gift. And if the pandemic is what I die from, then I had a joyful ride along the way. Wow. So, each of the 4 characters is looking at the pandemic, and then you take my 4, you put them with my family and our stuff, and then the neighbors, and then the communities, and then the countries, and then your country and the world. And it's like, oh my gosh, haven't we been in a lot of conflict over this?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I hope it bears out well for you guys.
Yeah.
I know different countries are at different levels, and hopefully, if nothing else, it's going to take away the hostility and anxiety of the 2 character 2s all in opposition. Mm-hmm. I never wore a mask for you. I wore a mask to protect me. Because I can't protect you, but I can protect me. And so hopefully you won't mind if I choose to wear a mask anyway, because I want to protect me from receiving the cootie.
Yeah.
And that way, then I'm only responsible for myself.
Yeah.
And so are you.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, wherever we land in this, it's, let's just be kind and respectful of one another and do our best to connect instead of push away.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So Jill, when are you moving out to sea?
I move onto my boat. I live on a boat for 6 months a year. I move out on May 1, and I will be out there till November 1.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You have a long, nice period of a lot of sea, weather,
yes,
animals around you.
Yes. Well, not sea. I'm on a big lake, so I'm deep water. Yeah. But it's the stillness of deep, still water. It's that energy that it just really radiates the energy of life up into me. So but I do live with God, and I get to be a character 4 really as my primary for those 6 months. And then I find I come back to Indiana to my home, and I do a whole lot of character 1.
Oh, so you have like 6 months of character 1, 6 months of character 4.
As primary, I'm afraid that is the way that it goes. But I have very strong, all 4 characters are very strong for me. So I know how to, pick up the phone and go play. I know how to just sit in the silence of me in a sense of gratitude. I know how to go to the office and, make a to-do list and just start running all the details. And I know how to whine and cry and be unhappy and be, rah, 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 rah. We all got that. But I also know how to use my own character 4 to come in and love my character 2. So, and I think that that's really one of the greatest gifts of this book is when you know all 4 of your characters and you're in your own personal pain, how do you really self-soothe yourself? How do you love yourself back into regulation? Because it's that character 2, alarm, alarm, alert, alert, dysregulation. I'm not safe. I need to observe. I need to go into a sympathetic alarm in order to protect myself. But how can I use my own peaceful calmness to slow myself down, bring back in my parasympathetic system to calm me and re-regulate myself? So the power of this book is it's an internal journey. journey, but once we really get that internal journey, it is in every relationship within ourselves as well as with others.
But also, just to close that part, when to switch or to have that character 4 take care of the character 2, you can do that with the Brain Huddle. That's the best tool for this, right? Yeah.
Yes, the huddle is the greatest tool, because really anytime you call a brain huddle, and you'll find that this happens, once you master bringing all 4 characters online, as soon as character 4 is online, there's love.
Yeah.
There's love. And you're going to make a better, kinder, gentler next step when love is on the plate. Yeah.
Jill, many thanks. I am so grateful for meeting you, big celebrity and everything. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk again.
Absolutely. Good. Enjoy the book. Thank you.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.